Hey people, welcome to the Run Test. It's Kieran here. It's 6 AM, it's a Friday morning. My Nike Vaporfly 3s arrived last night, so I'm doing what I do best, and that is I'm taking them out early doors before work for a full marathon test. So here we go. So that's the first 10k of the marathon test done. Done it in around 50 minutes, so that's kind of, I guess, a reasonable marathon pace for me. Whether I'll be able to hold it, I don't know. I played football last night, so I'm on quite tired legs. But anyway, these shoes, the Nike Vaporfly Next %3, I mean, again, things you look for: instant step-in comfort, put them on your foot, they feel right, they felt good, disappearing fit. You know, put them on, no troubles at all with getting the foot in place, getting them laced down. I have had some sort of minor slipping on the right heel. I think that's maybe just, I need to tweak the lockdown just a little bit more on the laces. But in terms of the way the uppers feel, plenty of room in the toe box. The way they wrap across the top of the foot, lovely. And yeah, again, you know, some of these super shoes, you put them on, they can feel a bit fussy, a bit like, I'm not sure how these are going to feel when I get out there. These Vaporfly Next %3s, I put them on and I was instantly like, these are going to be good in terms of the overall kind of fit and feel on foot, and that has been true. The ride, I think the major difference on the ride for me to the Vaporfly Next %2 is just there's more, it feels like there's more underneath the foot. They feel more protective, there's a bit more of a platform. They're a little bit less direct really. So, I mean, I'm going to be interested. I will go out and do a mile with one of these shoes on each foot, but that's how they feel to me. They feel like later on into this run, when things might go ragged, they're going to be better than the Vaporfly Next %2 were, a little bit more protective, but still poppy. You know, they've still got that spring. There's still good response from the foam. Everything is still working as you want it to in the Vaporfly. They still feel nice and light, agile. Though for me at the moment, I feel like maybe they're not tipping you up as much as the last generation, which probably felt like it pushed you up onto your forefoot a little bit more, which I think for some runners this is going to be a good thing. But if you like that kind of tilted forward racy feel, you're not going to get it here. There's the half done in 1:44. We've now arrived in central London. It turns out that the House of Parliament are almost exactly 13 miles from my house. So what a great turning point that is to have on an out and back. So the Vaporfly Next %3, I mean, in that next 6 miles, they've run like a dream. Oh, well, I've just stepped in a big puddle underfoot, which is why I paused there. And now my feet are soaked because those uppers have got massive holes in them. They let the water in quite a lot. They're super breathable. I mean, they are airy. I could almost feel the wind whipping across the top of my toes, which that's obviously going to be quite nice when you're running in hot temperatures. But it does seem to leak a bit of water there. Anyway, I guess my main takeaway from these is just that I think that increased kind of cushioning that you feel underfoot, particularly towards the heel. I think these definitely kind of feel flatter than the Vaporfly Next %2. I'm just not sure they're as lively. It's going to be really interesting to test them out side by side to see, but I just have this feeling that they've dulled them a little bit. I don't know. I know that's not what Nick kind of found in his sort of first run review, but maybe I'm running on tired legs, that can affect it. But I'm just not quite feeling as racy in them, I think. But what I found is overall for a super shoe, There's definitely a bit more stability. I do think there's a little bit less ground contact. There's a little bit less ground feel through them. They're starting to move more towards some of the other bigger stacked kind of shoes that we've seen come along. That'll be a good thing for some people for sure. They'll like that. I quite liked that sort of directness of the Vaporfly 2. I've already given them a point of difference to some of the other shoes. So, you know, it'd be interesting to compare them, but I hope they haven't lost that. But anyway, they're doing a good job so far. I'm moving roughly at kind of marathon pace, and we've got about 13 to go. And there goes Big Ben. The other note I just wanted to make, that it's just kind of occurred to me here, I don't think there's the kind of stiffness from the carbon plate maybe that you got in the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. They're definitely a bit softer. I think maybe that's what I'm feeling, where I'm not quite getting that kind of, that extra kind of pop. But anyway, we'll see how they cope. I've got another 13 miles to do. I'm running into a headwind, but I'm now heading west and on my way home, so we'll see how they cope when the legs get really tired, and they are probably about 70% tired already. So I'm now inside the last 6 miles. Legs are very tired. Got a little bit of a tightness in their abductors, but yeah, 6 to go for the marathon. The shoes are holding up nicely. Body is not holding up quite so well. And this is exactly where actually I think the old world of Vapors right now would be a bit of a struggle, because I've definitely rocked back further onto my heels. My form's gone a bit ragged, and these are much more forgiving, I think, than last gen. And you can almost sort of just cruise along them like you would, I think, like a regular shoe, like a daily trainer in some respects. So yeah, I don't know, they're an interesting one. So 26.2 done in 3:40 something. That is the marathon test in the brand new Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 3 done. I'm too tired to talk about the shoes now, so I will do a wrap back in my office. That was hard. So I'm clean, I'm fresher, I'm recovered from my marathon test in the Vaporfly Next Percent 3. Interesting test to take these fresh out of the box, whack them straight on the feet and go and run an early morning solo marathon around the streets of London. Did most of that, I think about 18 miles by probably my current marathon pace. The last 8 miles, I was totally on the struggle bus. I dropped to a real plod, everything tightened up. So it was a real good mixed test of the shoe, how it might actually pan out in a real marathon if things don't go according to plan. And I guess my marathon test verdict is this. This shoe is a good marathon race shoe. I think actually to a certain extent for many runners it's going to be a better marathon race shoe than the Vaporfly Next Percent 2, although I don't like it as much as the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. So there's a bit of a divergence of opinions here. So the reason I think this is going to be a better marathon race shoe for many people is really that if things don't go right, this shoe is more forgiving. There's definitely more cushioning in this, and you notice it underfoot, particularly when form gets ragged and you're not running particularly as well. I don't think it's quite got the kind of spring and punch of the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 when you're running in your finest form. I think the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 over the marathon distance, it kind of encourages you just to be up in your fine form. You have to have high cadence, you have to be running well. This doesn't do that as much, but it's a really happy thing when you hit the struggle bus and there's just more in the rear of the shoe. There's kind of a little bit more protection from the road when you're not running as well, and that's a really happy thing when you are struggling. The Vaporfly Next Percent 2 don't really give you that. You're pretty much left on your own to sort of suffer through those final miles in that shoe, I found anyway. The other differences here I think people are going to potentially enjoy depending on how you like it. There's much more kind of room in the toe box, so no kind of black and toenail risk. I think you've got much more breathability. There's much kind of roomier fit, and in many respects I think that makes them a little bit more comfortable deeper into the longer miles. But if you really like the race fit that you've got with the Vaporfly Next Percent 2, you might miss that. So that's another thing to consider over the marathon distance. If you like to have that kind of really tight, held in, locked in fit,
This one is a little bit looser, a bit roomier. Now, I guess the key thing for me is whether or not you get the all-out propulsion, and I'm just not sure. I think for me personally, the way that I've run in this shoe, even when I'm running marathon pace in that marathon test, I found it slightly duller. I don't think you get some of the stiffness that you got and that kind of firmness, which I think, again, some people would have really liked that, and I did personally in the Vaporfly 2. If that was something that put you off the Vaporfly 2, again, I know there are lots of people who've mentioned that in the comments, then this shoe might well address that. So this, for me, and the marathon test kind of just hammered this home, this shoe does run differently, I think, to the Vaporfly Next Percent 2. The key thing here is it's slightly softer, it's slightly more cushioned, and it doesn't, for me, feel as kind of all out, kind of up on your toes, kind of racy as the Next Percent 2. If that's something you wanted in the shoe, then the Vaporfly 3 is going to please you a lot because it does exactly that. If you liked what I've just described in the Vaporfly 2, then I think you might miss it in the Vaporfly 3, and you might still be better off finding Vaporfly 2s at a budget price. So overall, Nike has produced yet another very, very good marathon race shoe. I would be happy to go chasing PBs in this shoe, absolutely. I think if it goes wrong and you can't quite hit that towards the end, it's going to do you a lot of favours. Is it worth £10 extra over the Vaporfly 2 for chasing marathon PBs? I'm not entirely convinced. I think I'd still go Vaporfly 2, but I actually think a lot of people are going to love racing marathons in this shoe, and I can see it being really quite popular indeed.
So a quick word on fit then. I ran in a UK 8.5, which is my size, and I would definitely recommend going true to size in these shoes. They are lovely and roomy in the toe box. There's enough clearance across the top of the foot. I really like that. In terms of the uppers not kind of hugging down too tight on the toes. I've got pretty good lockdown fit. I've had to adjust once on the right shoe. There was a little bit of heel slipping, but I fixed that. And these just have a really lovely disappearing feel on the foot. From the moment you put them on, I think that fit is bang on for a race shoe. It's roomier, I think, than maybe some other snug shoes. So if you like the really tight fit of something like the Alphafly, or that locked in, you know, even of the New Balance SC Elite, that's quite a tight, snug fit. These have got a little bit more space. That's something I quite like in a race shoe. Particularly if you're going to go sort of longer distance, if you're pushing into ultra territory, having a little bit of extra room in the toe box is good. But yeah, overall, I think fit is good, and I would be recommending going true to size in these.
So there you have it. That has been my out-the-box marathon test of the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 3. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. If you've already run in the Next Percent 3 and you've got thoughts on the shoe, share those in the comments below as well. If you're about to go and run a marathon and you've already picked a different shoe and you think this one might come into contention, or you just think there's better shoes out there, also hit us up. Share what works for you, what you've really enjoyed running, and we'd love to hear about that. Don't forget to like and subscribe and ring the bell. And then finally, if you're interested in our Vaporfly Next Percent 3 comparisons, there's one on the channel right now. Go and watch that. That will help you out making a decision if you're thinking about this versus some of the other shoes. Otherwise, it's been a pleasure to talk to you about the shoe, and I hope to see you again soon on the Run Testers.